initiative, that's going to make it really tough to get it done. Yeah. Any other comments, questions on that issue? Okay. The next item on the list is assessing wireless infrastructure. As you know, Todd and I worked with the wireless industry for the past couple years on the siting of cell towers and what powers the local governments have over regulating the siting of cell towers. In those discussions, we raised this topic, and they did not want to work on this topic last year, but they made a promise to us, since we have worked with them on their legislation, that they would sit down with us this year to see what can be done to address some of the problems your assessors are having in valuing this type of asset. As you know, the wireless industry is one of the fastest growing industries we have right now in this country, and it's changing all the time. They're changing out technology on your towers constantly, moving to the 4G equipment on your tower. A lot of times they leave the old technology on the tower. We've got all these different agreements with the different tower companies, with the different providers. It's very, very difficult for your assessor's office to even know what's out there, much less find out how much income is being produced off of these assets. So again, a lot of these are lease arrangements. There's ground leases, there's leases for the tower. Those are all income producing assets. But we just don't have a good mechanism in our state for really determining the true value. So the belief is that there's a lot of value that's going unreported and that you're not collecting ad valorem taxes on. And if we really had a better knowledge of what the actual value was, that there'd be a lot of ad valorem taxes that you would be collecting that you're not collecting right now. Steve, do you all, the assessors, have any comment on just sort of tell the group sort of from a process standpoint, how do you all identify all these assets? Is there changing technology constantly on the towers and changing agreements for leasing these things? How do you all keep up with it?
In Cobb County, we got additional funding from the Board of Commissioners to have an outside firm audit all of our cell towers. And that was about a year-long project. And basically, we worked with our outside vendor, worked with each one of the cell tower companies. And I think that cost us about $150,000 to have our vendor do all of our cell towers. In Cobb County, we got a lot of cell towers, but yet the yield was millions of dollars in fair market value discovered.
And just the ones on county property, or all of them?
All of them.
Okay.
And there's a number of companies. It's not just Verizon and ACCG. There's a number of companies that have cell towers, and you're right, they have leases on the property, and so metro counties will definitely have a lot of, because there's just a lot of coverage in the metro area.
Todd?
I was just going to point out, we mentioned the compromise on the cell tower legislation, that y'all remain free to hire an outside auditing firm to work with you on assessing. However, one of the provisions that we did agree to is that firm can no longer be paid on a contingency fee basis. So you have to agree to a price up front with the auditor in terms of conditions, because nothing makes them more angry than if there's an auditing firm that works on a contingency fee, and we did agree to give that up. Not the right to the auditor, but the third-party auditor, but they charge a contingency fee basis.
And quite frankly, a lot of our smaller counties, you just don't have the resources to do what Cobb, spend $150,000 to go audit. So if we can improve the reporting requirements, that may provide some additional ad valorem taxes for all the counties in the state without having to go through the expense of doing an audit. Stephen?
Just one final comment. Most of them do that. There's a few auditing firms. I would encourage you to be very careful, because there is one firm in the state of Georgia that's currently operating that has found themselves in a couple of different court cases because of promising things to Board of Commissioners about total yield that they would most likely receive, and then they fell short in delivering that. So if you want more information on reliable source, or reliable firms, you can give anyone in our association, or call me. I'm at Cobb County Assessor's Office, and I'll let you know more about what arrangement we have. We pay a flat fee, and whatever was there is.
Also, these microcells are popping up. That's sort of the latest trend in wireless infrastructure. It's for a lot of the pockets where it doesn't make sense for them to go put up a new tower if they don't have proper coverage. So they're going into areas and putting up these smaller little antennas on the telephone poles. And I think a lot of counties aren't picking up on a lot of that infrastructure.
Right,
Again,
going along with the rural, more rural counties, Clint, that's where we're hearing most of the problems are being generated from. And two primary problems are developed. One is, they're under-reporting, and the other is we can't contact anybody in the companies that knows anything about it.
That's probably the thing we're working on.
Yeah.
Make it clear to all any of us who wants to do the contact.
Right, because these smaller counties should be able to do an audit in-house, really, for certain extent, without any wire outside. I mean, you're not talking about as many cell towers.
wireless industry on this topic.
So, chances are they know what they are.
That's in the wireless industry on this.
Assessment office is coming to report on.
Do we have any volunteers for another subcommittee to work with the wireless providers on this? And ACCG?
I think there's an opportunity here for us to maybe get some things done that would positively impact all 159 counties on this area if we can get a few people. I think we're going to have to definitely have the assessors involved in this one, but we do need some members of this committee to agree to serve on that subcommittee, to meet with the Verizons and AT&Ts on this topic.
I'll volunteer for Cobb.
Okay.
But can our,
Henry Craig?
JoAnn, your attorneys in Cobb are very familiar with the issue.
I know,
JoAnn.
and Gwinnett is too. Susan, will you help? Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Merv? Do you want? West? Which county was that?
It's growing too.
Baldwin? Okay, and then I'll contact you on this, but I think we do need to partner with your association on this, that you are the ones that,
We lost our point person. I was just fixing to discuss with Todd. Linda Thurman actually left the assessor's office and went to a cell tower company. So, she was the one that was kind of doing a lot of the legwork. So,
if you can't beat them, you hire them, right?
Driving them crazy.
Can't beat them, join them.
What's that?
She's done the turn now.
Well, they were smart, were they? They know they can pay more than the county, so they just bought her off.
Okay.
Okay, the next item, titling boats and assessing under the TAVT. So you all are all familiar with how now we're doing cars under the title ad valorem tax system. There is a proposal floating around out there, and it's coming from the industry. The boating industry wants this. They want to have boats titled, which currently are not required to be titled in Georgia. They are required to be titled in a lot of other states. So, but for whatever reason, Georgia has not titled boats or required them to be titled. They are required to be registered with DNR. However, that's I believe a 3-year registration, and there's also issues where some of your tax assessors they'll try to check with DNR to see what boats may be registered in your county, but a lot of times they get sold over that 3-year period, and nobody goes back and updates the record at DNR until they have to, and so your assessors or your tax commissioners sometimes send the bill to the wrong person. It's kind of a mess. What I'm hearing, there's a lot of boats that go completely under the radar that aren't paying taxes at all. So for some of the counties, I know we have Baldwin County, you all have a lake that touches your county, but for some of these counties, especially the ones that have fairly large lakes, it could be a substantial amount of property taxes that's not getting reported on boats. If you put them into the title ad valorem tax system and required them to be titled, it would probably greatly improve the chances of you collecting ad valorem taxes on those boats. We already do have a policy position on this, supporting it. However, I just wanted to bring it to your attention because apparently, again, the boating industry is very interested in it. You ask why would they be interested in it? They're losing a lot of business to people going out of state. These people that are trying to stay under the radar, they're buying their boats now in other states where they don't have to be titled, and they're not paying sales tax, and they're not paying anything. And then they're bringing them back to Georgia, not reporting them. And so a lot of times they're here in Georgia, but you don't know that they're here. So if it's more of a competitive issue for them, they want to try to make sure that that they're being treated the same as their competitors in other states and not giving their out-of-state competitors a leg up advantage on them. Any thoughts on this topic? Again, putting boats under the TAVT system.
So this would do away with the DNR registration?
Well, there's some discussion with DNR about how we would do that. It would not necessarily do away with the registration, but we would be probably moving registration and titling if we were to do this to the tax commissioner's office, because the tax commissioners handle the TAVT system, and they handle the registration for vehicles. So we'd probably have to work very similar to how we do vehicles. So we'd be moving a lot of this over to the tax commissioner's office. We do have a meeting set up with the Department of Natural Resources. I believe it's in July, maybe July 12th off the top of my head, to discuss this issue with them. But if there's anybody that wants to be a part of these discussions, we're still kind of delving into the details about how we would get it done legally and administratively. But it's something that we're considering. And I guess we can come back at the second meeting and look at and see if we need to revise our current position on this topic. But we do have a position on it right now.
GATO will also be considering that this week.
That's GATO, for those of you that don't know, is the Georgia Association of Tax Officials. It's your Tax Commissioners Association. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments, Susan?
I was just going to say, I ran it by Rick and Still, our tax commissioner, last time. We've got just over 13,000 votes in the county. And he had a bunch of different questions regarding the renewal period. And Dan and I were talking, what would be in our responsibility? Would they have to do visual inspections? There's a whole lot of questions
Yeah.
that have got to be answered, I think, just from the standpoint of figuring out operationally what they'll be doing and whether there'll be more staff and things of that nature.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to work on this topic with the tax commissioners, with DNR and others over the summer months to try to get a better picture of how that system would look and what it would potentially cost and what are the benefits of it. And we'll bring it back to you all at the second meeting and determine if we need to make any changes to our existing statement. But again, if there's anybody in this room, especially those of you that live on lakes, if you're interested in getting more into the details of this topic, we'd be glad to include you in those meetings that we're going to have on this. Just let us know.
Would there be a salary supplement for the tax commissioner?
Hush, Todd.
Don't give them any ideas.
If we can do it on a contingency basis, how much new revenue they bring in.
Dan's got your calculator right now.
Yeah.
We definitely should bring in more revenue. They're not paying
It's
a
an
fee now.
opportunity to collect missed revenue.
Private company about $25 a pop handle this for them, and they're not doing a very good job. That's why DNR was inquired to us back last fall if we were willing to do it in 2014. Obviously, they didn't give us enough time to respond or even get legislation passed that would allow that. And so we're having further conversations, and then Clint said the idea of the TAVT had been brought up, and so we're kind of pulling it all together. And one of our tax commissioners from Whitfield County said the way they're getting on the radar for taxation, even registration, is you go to DNR website and you download an affidavit, you sign it, stick it in your pocket, you ride on the lake, and the DNR patrol pulls you over, you just pull out, so I've applied. It's like putting that old cardboard on the back of cars, it's what
Yeah.
I applied for. You pull out this affidavit, it says, I applied for my DNR registration, but that company y'all using takes 6 months to get it here to me, I haven't got it yet. And he said, okay, sir. And he was saying he knows people that's gone 2 or 3 years, they haven't paid a dime in taxes nor have a registration on the side of their sea-doo.
See, if nothing else, by coming to this meeting today, y'all have learned all kinds of valuable tricks and loopholes to avoid taxes.
Yeah.